As we enter another holiday shopping season, is it me? Or does it feel like holiday shopping actually started September of this year? Now, as America's pattern trader, I don't want to only just show you the calendar for this season, but I want to show you a few of my favorite stocks as well as we head into the end of 2023. Hey folks, Tom Gentile here, America's Pattern Trader, and it's amazing how time flies. Now, I got some patterns I want to show you today, but before I do, let's talk about how I actually got started trading patterns themselves. And it all starts with my first personal computer, which is, guess what? The VIC-20. The VIC-20 was something I remember getting as a Christmas present from my parents back in 1982. We hooked this up to an old TV, and we used cassette tapes as backups. Now, at the time, basic language was the only thing we knew, and I was fascinated by it. In fact, I thought I was going to be a programmer as a career, but then I realized I didn't want to be a programmer, although I loved the research aspect. Now, that really didn't start cluing into me until the internet started. So, my next question for you is, do you know when the internet actually started? Because I had to Google this one. It was started January 1st, 1983. Now, I was a senior in high school at the time. The only pattern I was interested in was the oval track that surrounded the football field. I was a cross-country runner. I ran long distance, and I had visions of school records, medals, and even an athletic scholarship to college. Now, I put the computer down. I didn't pick it up again until the late 80s with my first online service provider, CompuServe. Now, at the time, they offered dial-up service, and they charged by the minute for research. Eventually, subscribers got transferred into AOL. It's funny, if you look at CompuServe right now, it looks pretty much like the same thing it did when I used it. Take a look at this image. Now, where am I going with all this? Well, this is how I started researching my trading style, which eventually went from the following. I started as a novice trader. I called myself a discretionary trader. And at the time, I basically watched FNN, which is now what you call CNBC. I used to also buy most of what was being talked about on TV. So that was a very bad way to start trading, as this can get very emotional. In fact, it all came to a head for me in 1987, which was my very first stock market crash. Now, I decided at the time that if I wanted to continue as a trader, I needed to start to understand the markets a little bit more than just watching TV and taking a pattern or something that someone else talked about. So I started what was called fundamental trading. Now, fundamental trading was researching economics, corporate fundamentals, revenue, sales, PE ratios, etc., before making a trade. This was great, but the problem here is this is more suited to investors, as fundamental data comes out on a minimum average of once a quarter, but typically fundamental traders look at yearly patterns, which started me into technical trading. So back to the computer and following charts and indicators. Now, this is great, but the problem here is there are thousands of indicators out there, and most are what we call backward-looking indicators, which means the pattern looks great on the chart until you start to trade it and realize, wait a second, this stock has already made the move before the pattern kicks in. So a lot of these rules just simply didn't hold up when looking at them. This brought me to what I call rules-based trading. Now, this is where we take fundamental and technical data, we back test it with these patterns that we find, and we trade them only when we see robust results. So basically, a rules-based trade is something you can identify and quantify before actually trading. There are several ways to do this. What I'm going to show you today is seasonal-based trading patterns. Seasonal-based patterns are what stop and start on the calendar. Now, what I do is I let my AI scan all these stocks, and I look at stock patterns that have a 90% or better repeatable pattern for any time of the year. So here's what December looks like for me at first glance. Now, this is what I call the money calendar. Notice the colors on the calendar go from green on some days to almost red on others. This is based on the number of bullish and bearish seasonal stocks at the start of each day. So, for instance, take a look at December 6th. There are 54 seasonal patterns on that day that qualify out of thousands of stocks. 41 of these have bullish patterns, while only 13 have bearish patterns. Let's take a closer look at December 6th. Now, what I've done here is I've just taken a snippet of all the patterns that came up for December 6th. Now, my top 3, I unblurred. These are the ones we're going to focus on. So as you can see, the stock symbol is to the left. The green lines you see, those tell me these are all bullish patterns. Red would show bearish. The number at the end of each green line tells me how many days the pattern lasts for. There's other information available to me on here, including net profit, accuracy, average profit, etc. The column to the far right, that's called the power meter. That's the most important column to me because it lets me know which patterns have more certainty of continuing based on recent results. To go deeper, I'm going to click right on one of these symbols, and that opens up more information. So let's look at avgo. Avgo has a 90% success rate in the last 10 years. In fact, the only losing year in the last 10 years was 2014, and it wasn't that bad at all. Now, during this 10-year pattern, avgo produced an average return of nearly 20 points from December 6th to year's end. 2021 was the best return during this pattern as it actually produced 100 points on the stock. Now, when you take a look at all 10 of these years, it's about 5% in less than a month. That's 60% annualized. Here's what the other 2 look like. Now, Anthem is the second trade I have up. ANTM has a bullish pattern from December 6th to January 11th, 2024. Last year's results were better than a 50-point move on the stock, just under a 10% move in just over a month. Now, the third pattern is EL. This is Estee Lauder. Estee Lauder was a December 6th to December 28th pattern, a 90% historical accuracy with about a 5% up move in just over 3 weeks. Now, all of these show patterns that you actually buy on December 6th, and then each has its own ending pattern. And again, do your own research, but these are 3 of the best picks heading into December based on historical accuracy. There you go, folks. No hoping, no feeling, no thinking about them. Just pure rules-based trading patterns, all with past results. Now, although nothing is guaranteed, I'll take my method of trading over any meme trader. We'll see you on the next video.